Hi, I'm Joanne Dennison, CMP, and here's some information that will help you while you are preparing for your CMP and hopefully in your real life too. So one of the things that the material talks about is program flow. First of all, please notice it's spelled like that because in case no one has told you, the official language of the exam is International or Global English. Yes, I know they're slightly different, but for most of us, the same. So don't be alarmed when you see words spelled differently than US English for those of you in the US. So they start out talking about the ESG, the Event Specifications Guide. Now you may have heard people who were preparing for their CMP or recently did their CMP talk about it, ESG. So the glossary talks about how it's the most commonly used term for this, which I will explain what it is. I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but that has been being said even since I took the exam in 1996. And the reality is I know very few people who use the term ESG or Event Specifications Guide unless they are preparing for their CMP, recently did their CMP, or involved in teaching and writing about the CMP. So don't feel bad if it's not a word you're familiar with, a term you're not familiar with. Just putting that out there. Anyway, so what is it? So the Event Specification Guide, I would say, is your everything. When I went through what we talked about, and I know a lot of other people talked about it, we saw it as another term for our binder. And, you know, the book that had everything in it, absolutely everything, whether, you know, contracts, you know, work orders, just everything was in it. And that's still true. But so what you find is some see it as a document and others see it as the whole binder. Now, in this particular case, they refer to it more as the planner's equivalent of the venue's resume. Now, I'm going to use hotel for the venue. A hotel resume, which I know for a lot of us has also been a hard time getting our mind around that word since it's not the term we usually use. It is their everything from the time anything begins on site with your event to the last box being shipped out. That is the resume. This is your version of it from your point of view if you're a planner or if you're a supplier. Now you know it's the planner's equivalent of the hotel resume, but it still has everything on it. One of the things the book talks about is the draft should be shared about 14 days before the event starts, because we know there's a lot of back and forth between the venue and the planner in those last few weeks before the event. It is shared with obviously the hotel or other venue and also with suppliers, because other suppliers like production or floral or whatever it may be, they are part of that resume also, and it allows them to see how they have to interact with other groups. So this is your everything, but from that everything, you may draw other documents and information to pass to specific people. Looking at the whole idea of the program flow though, the overall start to finish event, three of the main ones that you will be pulling from this information are the detailed agenda. Now a detailed agenda is, I don't want to say a step below, but a step less complicated than this. But it would go to potentially like your registration desk, your frontline workers, if you're a planner. So they know all the details they need to know, like setup is going in, and then, you know, housekeeping will be arriving then, and then the florist will be arriving then. So it's less than this. It's actually taken from the ESG, but it's something those frontline people need to have. It's all that information. From there, it goes on and talks about scripts. Scripts are primarily for people like your MCs or anyone else who is on the main stage or in front of everyone giving information. So those scripts would have information pulled from the event specification guide again about when things are happening, where they're happening, etc. And the last one that they talk about is the agenda for attendees, or some may call it their program for their attendees. And obviously, that's simplified from this and this. They don't need to know who's setting up when, but they do need to know when every event that impacts them is going on. So those all fall under program flow, the biggest and most complete being the ESG, Event Specifications Guide. Detailed agenda is pulled from that for those frontline workers who need to know almost everything at their fingertips. Scripts for anyone who is emceeing or making announcements from the stage, and the agenda or program for the attendees. Hopefully that draws some boundaries around them so you understand what makes them different and how you would use them.